Welcome to Reel In Films, Andy Palmer. How are you doing today?
And I'm doing great. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And um, I'm super excited. This film brings me a lot of joy. Uh,
Hey,
yeah, it brings me a lot of joy because it's this type of like comedy that you don't see no more in theaters.
totally.
And just just recently another film came out that had the same essence of comedy, and I'm like, yes, these comedies are coming back, and it's been so long that these
Yeah.
type of like straightforward comedy films have been in theaters. So recent ones have been like very light comedy, but this type of like I would say straightforward raunchy films
Yep.
are coming back. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, we need those good adult comedies, right? Like old people like to laugh too, right? So
I completely agree. Yeah.
right? No, I totally agree because these are the movies that like you don't see that R-rated comedy and so much because I think it's riskier, right? They're sort of riskier. They're a little bit more of a gamble and Hollywood's in this mode where they don't gamble as much anymore, and so I think it's up to indie filmmakers to take up that mantle and make movies that you know make people laugh, maybe make people think, and stuff like that. And I think the thing that makes Molly unique is it all comes from like a really positive place. Like I wanted the movie to come from this sort of like positive poppy place. I didn't want it to be like mired down in too much like doom and gloom. I think we've just seen so much doom and gloom the last few years, and I was like, I want bright colors, and it's like the girl has problems, but they're not life and death problems, and stuff like that. And it was just, I don't know, you need that sort of that escape, I think.
So going into that, because I feel that the energy of like that you have more reasons behind you being part of the film. So what inspired you to become the director of this film?
Yeah, I'd always wanted to direct comedies, and as I came up through film and stuff like that, I'd started doing like horror movies and which I also really enjoyed. But my heart was always in comedies. So I was editing a film for the writer producer Todd Friedman, and he asked me, he knew that I had directed and stuff, and he asked me what I wanted to do next, and I said I want to do a comedy. I want to do just like an old school weird sciency comedy, and he goes, yeah, I have one of those, man, and so he sent me the script, and it was actually called The Re-Education of David Singer. So it was male driven,
Okay.
and it was really funny. The premise, I love the premise and stuff like that. But I was like, yeah, I think we can like freshen this up. And I started kind of pitching these ideas, and I said, we've never seen a female Van Wilder. We've never, like I was like, we need like that. Just kind of like make this feel a little bit more fresh and give it a different perspective and stuff like that. And Todd and his and the other writer Kevin loved that, and so we just started spinning ideas and then reworked the script. And then when we started sending it out, people just responded. Like Britt came on right away. We had originally gotten Wendy McClendon Covey from the Goldbergs and Reno 911 to play Brenda, and that ended up because we just were in the midst of financing and casting and stuff like that. The Goldbergs came back up and she couldn't do it. But then we got Jamie Presley, and that was like a complete blessing because I don't think anybody could have played Brenda better than Jamie. So, that's one of those like great happy accidents in film. But yeah, that was it. I wanted to tell a story that made people laugh.
Okay. And going to that, talking about the cast and everything, how was it working with Britt Robertson and the whole cast of The Re-Education of Molly Singer?
Yeah, they're a dream. I mean, it's like not only are like the talent level is just like it's just off the charts, but they're all just good people. Like everybody was so nice, and we would go out and have dinner, after we wrap and stuff like that, and it was just like good conversation and stuff. And um, Britt is just she is beyond the sweetest person, and so like just so committed to everything. I remember the first time sitting down with her and we were talking about the project, and I looked down and she had her script. She had this big binder with the script and stuff, and she would open it up and she's like, "Yeah, I want to talk about this scene," and it was just notes upon notes of beats and questions and all these kind of things, and it's like, wow, man, like like it was a huge get for our small movie to get something like you, and then for you to just pour yourself much of yourself into that is amazing.
So going into that, because I know it's not often that you talk about the director talking to like the cast or the main character of the whole film, but how does it feel that you sat down with Brit and and be able to like explain to her like, hey, this is how this scene is going to work. What other questions do you have? How this is how I would like you to portray your character. How did
Mhm.
it feel to to have that back and forth with her?
Yeah, yeah, it was great because she's incredibly collaborative. And the thing I like about Brit is that even if she knows one of my ideas is bad, she will try it. Like she'll and not only try it, she'll give it her all. And then I will go, that was a bad idea, wasn't it? She goes, yeah, that was a horrible idea. And I'm like, cool, let's go do it the other way, you know? And it was funny to see how every actor sort of does that because Nico would come to me first thing in the morning and be like, "Oh, I had an idea for this. What do you think of this?" And he would have like 30 different lines in replacement of what was in the script, and I'm like, let's do them all. That sounds great, you know. And then Britt was one of those people that would like she just takes any sort of adjustment so well and then runs with it, you know. Sierra was so funny because you could tell that like as a child, like coming up as like as a kid actor and stuff like that, I had thrown her a line and she goes, and I remember in between she goes, pardon me, just a quick question if I can have a few minutes of your time. And I was like, sure. And she was like, I just have a request. And it was so formal. And you can tell that as a kid actor, that was what she was told to do for directors and stuff like that. And I was like, Sierra, you don't have to be so formal with me. You can tell me to fuck off. That line was terrible, you know? And so, yeah. And so it's like, it's just funny to see everybody's process. And Jamie would like, Jamie just knew. She was like, I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to do this. And you're like, Jamie, go to town. Like you're just like, I trust you,
Oh,
because
that's
it's all about
amazing.
tone. If the tone of the scene to me feels right, the words don't mean as much to me.
Okay. No, that's amazing. The fact that you have that collaboration with all of the cast members, that's great, because it will make the film be more fluent, and I would say gives a touch for them as well.
Yeah.
So Andy, while filming, did you have any challenges?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Mostly external challenges. Once we were rolling, it was just like we were kids on a playground. But there were a lot of external challenges, as in any indie movie. You never have enough time and stuff like that. What we were really butted up against was we were making a movie in Atlanta as COVID stuff was starting to lighten up, and so everybody was making movies. Like all the Marvel shows were going
Yeah.
on. Atlanta was just absolutely saturated, and so we couldn't keep crew, and we would lose locations because somebody outbid them, and last minute and stuff like that. So there were a lot of like pivots we had to make, just on the production side. But everybody just would rally around it, and like I mean, the law office where we shot, which was really cool looking. We did not have. We were like, we're gonna have to shoot this in LA. We were gonna like push it on the schedule, and we were shooting at a college up the road, and somebody I don't know drove by it or went and got coffee there, and saw it the day before. And so at lunch, the production designer and the DP and I ran over to this place, and we are like, yeah, this will work. And so it was like that. Usually, you like see a place, you lock it in. The art department has time to put it, design everything and we can do our shots and stuff like that. And there were instances where it was a day before and we had to just kind of pivot and go.
Okay. Do you have any favorite moment of the film?
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a lot where the Sully kidnap scene to me was hilarious because it was just I don't know, the idea of filming a giant bird running around trying to be kidnapped by a group of delinquents just makes me laugh on the inside. And the guy it was the stunt guy that was doing the flips and stuff. I was like, who is this? This is amazing. So that was a really fun scene to shoot. One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, just because it was so we had that converted firehouse that we shot at, but I love that scene where Nico and Britt have that heart to heart talk about kind of growing up and moving on. Nico and his husband Zeke had written that scene, and so it was like very special. It was very special and personal to him, and they just like had so much chemistry, and it was just I don't know, beautifully lit, beautifully acted, and I just remember that night. I've been like, wow, we have a really cool movie on our hands, something different.
That no, I can agree that it is something different. So this is going to be a kind of a tough question, probably
Sure.
for me. But what type of comedy do you classify the re-education of Molly Singer?
You know, it's a throw. I think it's a throwback. I think it's like an 80s, 90s throwback goofball adult comedy, you know, stuff that I loved, I'm a big like, these are kind of like more in the vein of like sports movies, but like I love like Bull Durham and Tin Cup, these sort of like, these sort of like weirdly backdropped, relationship comedies and stuff like that. And so I think yeah, or one of the guys that I just loved growing up was Edward Burns, and She's the One and Brothers McMullen and stuff like that. And this to me feels like a bubblegum version of an Ed Burns movie or a Kevin Smith movie, you know?
Okay, yeah, I completely agree. So my follow-up question will be, to maintain the same tone is, do you think that this type of film, this type of comedy should come back to big screens?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, of course. Because it's like I think we're hitting a saturation point with with bigger blockbusters and stuff like that. I mean, I think we're seeing it at the box office. And don't get me wrong. Listen, I was sitting in Avengers cheering when Sam said on your left, like cheering at the top of my lungs with a full theater. Like it was this magical moment and stuff like that. But I miss those, like I miss just on like, a Friday going to like some quirky comedy, and just laughing with a bunch of people. Comedies, especially, they're so infectious when you see them with a group. It's so much more fun to watch a funny movie with a big group of people because the laughter becomes involuntary and infectious and stuff like that. And we need it. We need that variety in theater. And I don't know if we'll get it. I don't know. Theatrical stuff may become Broadway. It may become bigger, bigger showpieces and stuff like that. But I don't know. Maybe we need like, there's a theater down the road from me that is like every theater is decorated like a penthouse apartment, and so there's no like regular seats. It's like couches and chairs, and they do dinner and stuff like that. Maybe we need more of those, and that's where our comedies go and stuff like that, where it's you can still enjoy it with a group of people, but you don't have the pressure of selling out 4,000 seats.
No, yeah, I completely agree. So touching on that base, now that you mention it, do you think that there is a fatigue in theaters, or you mean movie wise, and within all these big blockbuster films?
I mean, I have to think so. I mean, you think it like, on paper, The Flash makes a lot of sense and stuff like that, and it's a really well crafted film with talented people, but I think it struggled a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think you hit a saturation point. I think the thing is that like the formula does not change. If you have an amazing story with amazing characters, and I think that's where the lightning in the bottle came from Marvel, you really cared about all these characters. Like you cared about them, and that was really established in Iron Man that kicked it all off. Is like you liked Tony Stark, you liked Pepper Potts, you liked all these people, and it was like they really did a nice job of developing those characters in this overall arc that really culminated in Avengers. But Avengers was so big and so good. It's like, where do you go? And I find myself like watching those shows and stuff like that, but I'm not as invested as I was. That just to me felt like such a culmination. And I don't know how you sort of recapture that magic. With the exception for me being Miss Marvel, because that the is it Iman Vellani who plays Miss Marvel? I'm like, this girl is a superstar. I mean, she could do a movie called Reading the Phone Book, and I'm like, I'm in. Where's I'm ticket buying? She was. I'm really excited for the Marvels movie just because I think she is so talented.
I completely agree with you in all those notes. So I wanted to ask you, what would be your all-time favorite comedy film?
Well, if I had my druthers, if I could make any film like on a studio level, I would want to remake Cannonball Run because I thought that was like such a fun experiment in movie making where you take all these like giant stars and movie stars from all walks of life. And we were talking at the time, you're talking about Burt Reynolds is the biggest movie star. Cannibal Run has Frank Sinatra in it, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, Jackie Chan's in the movie. I mean, it's like crazy. And I would love to do that. Like Cannonball Run meets Ocean's 11, where it's like you're just taking the biggest, baddest Hollywood stars, throwing them in cars, wacky stunts, stuff like that. That would be my dream.
Amazing. So I want to ask you one final question. For my audience, what can they expect when they sit down to see the re-education of Molly Singer?
I think what they can expect is they can expect to laugh, laugh a little bit, but also just get this big dollop of heart, where it's just like there's a lot of heart in the movie, and there's a lot of what I hope people realize is that like the movie is all about self-discovery. It's all about figuring out who you are as a person, and also not putting the pressure on yourself to figure out who you are as a person when you're 18 or 19 years old. Like Molly doesn't figure out who she is till she's 30. Paulie doesn't figure out who he is till he's later. And it's like everybody's overcoming some sort of level of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing versus what I should be doing, and so I hope that people, like, while they're laughing, take that to heart and be like, yeah, maybe my job isn't for me and I need to go try something else, or maybe I shouldn't worry about all the pressure to make a ton of money or do this or that, and maybe I should just kind of chase being happy for once.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Andy, wanted to ask you one last thing. What would you say to any coming up filmmaker? What will you tell them, in regards to some words of motivation?
Sure. Two things. I would say, if you're coming up, and you're going to like film school and stuff like that, I would say don't major in like directing or producing or writing, because I think that that's these are really finite jobs, and that's always your end goal. But I would say get trained in some sort of craft, whether it be lighting, gaffing, gripping, editing, special effects, anything like that, where there's lots of jobs. Because part of the challenge of becoming a filmmaker, it's not cheap, and B, you still have to live your life, and so it's like I came up through editing, and that thankfully not only open my skill level up as far as telling stories and directing, but it also opened up a network of people, and it kept me employed so that I could keep going and making movies. And so I would say looking at doing craft stuff like that, like look at the other jobs on a film set so that you can be in and around it while you're making your own stuff. And while you're making your own stuff, make it as cheaply and inexpensively as possible so that you can teach yourself. Don't throw all your eggs in one basket, and so that you never get to make another movie again. Like, do it as frugally as possible so that you can go make another one and get better, and make another one and get better.
That's amazing. So thank you very much, Andy, for joining us today. As well, everybody that is watching us, the re-education of Molly Singer will be in theaters, digital, and on demand on September 29th.
That's right.
Don't miss out. Andy, I gotta say, thank you very much for giving us your time, and
You.
so excited for everybody to watch the film.
Don, I had such a blast, man. Let's do this again.
Sure thing. Yeah, anytime. You just hit me up in social media, and we'll get it. We'll get rocking.
I love it, brother. Appreciate it, Dan.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.